Good afternoon and welcome to From Crisis to Normalization. Welcome wherever you are in the world. My name is Alpesh Patel. I'm the head of strategy at Axerve. I've been working in payments and e-commerce since 1999. Crisis to normalization. I have my own crisis and I've gone to normalization. It is my hairstyle. I did have hair, now I don't, but that's a minor point. We've got some great topics to discuss today with an outstanding panel. What we're going to discuss today, we're going to have a European overview provided by Bain and Company, the state of digital transformation provided by Riskified and Axerve, stories on building resilience in a digital world contributed by MasterCard, Bain, Tribu, Mode and Infobit, our panelists. We will end with a question and answer session. At the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will see a button that has Q&A function. We would welcome you to write down any questions that you may have that have come up during the course of the session, and we will endeavor to answer those at the end, subject to time being on our side. Please now let me introduce you to our speakers today. We have Merav Peled. She is a director of partnerships at Riskified. Merav is a business development and innovation leader with 20 years international management experience. Prior to working at Riskified, she held management positions in various fields, from cybersecurity and energy to consumer and mobile products. With the Riskified growth team, Merav locates, initiates, and builds worldwide collaborations and opportunities. She develops strategic partnerships and marketing campaigns with payment processors, gateways, financial institutions, and large associations. Welcome, Merav, and thank you for your contribution today. Our next speaker is Alessio De Monte. He's head of sales and business development at Axerve. He is one of my colleagues. Alessio joined Banca Sella Group in 2015 after working for EY in strategic consultancy. For Axerve, he manages the business development and account teams. He is focused on supporting all merchants that we work with in their growth plans and their omni-channel propositions. He's a true retailer at heart. Our panelists today are Antonio Alfano in the Cyber and Intelligence Solutions team at MasterCard. Antonio joined MasterCard in 2011. He joined the Cyber and Intelligence Solutions team in 2017, where he is responsible for the development of MasterCard Cyber Intelligence Solutions strategy and the go-to market in Italy. He also focuses on PSD2, security and authentication solutions. We also have Maria Giovanna Di Feo. She is a principal at Bain Consultancy. She has more than 10 years of consulting experience with Bain. She is focused on advising national and international banks with their payment strategies as well as their corporate strategies. Her main areas of expertise include digital payments, merchant service ecosystems, fintech innovation, SME banking and lending solutions. We also have Ivan Chanchi. He is the head of e-commerce at Tribu. His experiences span multiple areas with a specialization in the supply chain and the digital environments. Tribu is a digital platform listed on the Italian Stock Exchange with a range of e-commerce products ranging from high fashion, food industry, health and beauty. They are a highly experienced retailer in the Italian market, and they also have a very established global presence too. We also have Gianluca Malora. He is the CEO of Mode. Gianluca has a passion for furniture and has created Mode in 2004. He launched the e-commerce platform in 2011 and saw some amazing growth for his business. Mode is one of the leading Italian e-commerce platforms in luxury furniture and design. He has showrooms in Sicily, Messina, and Catania, and will soon have one in Milan. He has a digital boutique with over 40,000 products available, with upwards of 400 brands and over 20,000 products ready for delivery. We also have Alberto Strani, who's a senior manager for Infobip. Infobip is a global leader in omni-channel engagement, powering a broad range of messaging channels, tools, and solutions for advanced customer engagement, authenticity, and security. Before we start with today's discussions, we would like to kick off with a contribution from Maria Giovanna from Bain, who has some key insights on pre and during COVID data. Maria, please ensure your mic is on. Over to you.
Thank you, Halpish, and hello everybody, and thank you again for having me in this panel. So as you were saying, I would like to bring you a few data and trends that we as Bain are seeing on the e-commerce market. And first of all, I would like to say that already before COVID-19, the European e-commerce market was growing fast and was going very fast. So as you can see in this page, the European market was around 400 billion in 2014 and grew up to around 700 billion in less than 5 years. So that is a 14 percentage point growth. And Italy as well, despite having a lower penetration of e-commerce. So in Italy, we have a penetration of around 6–7% of e-commerce sales in the retail sectors. So despite starting a little bit lower, it grew fast also before COVID. So in the last 5 years, Italy grew by 16 percentage points per year, up to having an e-com market of around 31 billion last year. So these trends that we are seeing of growth in e-commerce were basically driven by two main factors. On one hand, we have consumers that are increasingly shopping more online. And this is because we have, younger consumers that are more comfortable shopping online. We have a lot of app economy and the mobile commerce application. We have new payment methods, such as buy now and pay later online, that are really fostering the users of e-commerce. And on the other hand, we have the merchants. And merchants, they are really improving their e-commerce offer. Think about marketplaces and aggregators that are really facilitating also small businesses going online and expand the market reach. Think about how quicker and less expensive are now the delivery solutions and the logistics for small businesses. And also think about how many new and disruptive businesses are arising in the e-commerce market, like all the food delivery or meals subscription kits, etc. So these trends were already fostering, the expansion of e-commerce before COVID. So what happened during COVID? So in the first semester of this year, we see and we have seen two different impacts. So on one side, everything that was physical and in-store has a tremendous, effect and has a tremendous crisis. So especially in some sectors where very, incidence of in-store payments, we have seen a decrease in payment transactions up to 50 or 65% during the months most hit by the crisis, like March and April. So think about everything that's restaurant, eat-out services, retail apparel, transportation and tourism, all the kind of sector were really, really strongly hit. And that's, the downside. The upside, on the contrary, is exactly the e-commerce business. So on the contrary, we have seen a surge in the e-commerce business in March and April. And in this page, you have a few data points. The online purchases increased by 160% month over month in March. And that holds particularly true in the food and grocery. So the food and grocery penetration in Italy in these months surged from 1% to 10 to 20%. And we all know that there's been a lot of, grocery providers in Italy struggling to be able to serve many customers. And the last thing we are observing, which I think is very interesting for our next panel discussion, that also consumers are increasingly more comfortable shopping online and trying digital payments. So more than half of the consumers that shopped online tried a digital payment method for the first time. And we also have another data that tells us that around 40–45% of cardholders who did not use their card in 2019 used their card during COVID to shop online. So we are seeing a really an increase in surge, both in e-com and in general propensity for consumer to shop online. So I think that was a very interesting time, and maybe we can discuss a little bit later more about what this brings up next in the following years in the new normal, so to say.
Fantastic. Maria Giovanna, thank you very much. That was some interesting information there. Younger demographics spending time with their apps, with engaging in e-commerce, 160% growth in online, food and groceries moving from 1% to 20%, with a great deal of people trying e-commerce for the first time, challenging and using new payment methods. Brilliant. So it's a perfect time for e-commerce to start pushing and omnichannel to start working. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Maria Giovanna. We're now going to move to our next topic, which is the state of digital transformation. And we will be having this presented to us by Merav from Riskified and Alessio from Axerve. Please have your mics on. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you, Alpesh. Okay, so let's start from with this slide, and let's say that the state of the art in 2019 show how some omnichannel behaviors actually were already there. The increasing between the last year and the mid of 2020 actually is quite equal to zero from a merchant point of view. How is it possible in a world where the social distance is becoming the new normal, and we spent months at home looking for new channels to get the products? So we need to go deeper a bit to find the reason why. And let me say that the omnichannel payment strategy is just a piece of a bigger digital approach that each merchant can project and realize. So if the buyer's behavior have changed, then the digital strategy should change accordingly in order to keep the business alive. And due to the COVID restriction, we as buyers use actually less cash, and everyone is more comfortable now to pay online and go in the store to pick up the goods. It means that the new life, let me say, will request the merchants to let their buyers get the same customer experience and the same advantage. So every merchant, every manager, every entrepreneur already had in mind the digital strategy needed for his company. This situation just extremely accelerates the opportunity to transform our business. So let's take the chance with Merav to see how managing the technology is really important to save money and get a better conversion.
Yes, Alessio. So digital transformation seeds were already in place, as you said, but few and far apart, and still in the background is the fraud management. Let's look at it. As you can see here, managing fraud is not just about eliminating the chargebacks. It's also about the good customers that you might turn away, the ones that are falsely declined. Data shows here that false declines are in fact costing more than the chargebacks. But we know that you can keep both the chargeback and the false decline rates low, because 40 to 80% of declined orders are in fact legitimate. And this problem is likely to go unchecked because it's invisible. It's an issue of lost potential rather than a negative cash flow. But these losses are actually real. Our data shows that 70% of orders declined at checkout are actually legitimate. In verticals like fashion and travel, machine learning algorithms can boost approval rates by 5 to 10%, which translates into a proportional increase in revenue. So while we don't have the 2020 numbers yet, we know there were many new risks that led to even higher false declines. Well, I'll explain a bit later, but let's look first at the recent omni-channel growth, Alessio.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. We are a PSP, and actually the PSPs, so the payment service provider, have been always described as payment enablers. But during actually the lockdown, the definition changed a bit, describing them as business enabled. In fact, it was the only possibility to keep alive the business and the daily money flow. So with the shops completely closed and without any commerce or the opportunity to leverage on cross channels, many merchants faced a big issue to keep the relationship with the buyers. And even if the relationship was in place, it was difficult to get the money and ship the goods. So for us, it was particularly interesting as a payment service provider, being the bridge between merchants to share opinions, experience on how to solve a specific finance, payment, and tech issue with a real open approach. In that chaos, let me say, stay close to our clients was really important as a partner to feel different situations. Some critical due to zero revenues through the standard channels, and some very stressful based on specific category or verticals where the demand was really huge, as food delivery or pharmacy, for example. But in both cases, a daily chat with our clients allowed us to define which were the solution to help the market and our clients in a practical way. So as Axerve did, actually, also Riskified move on a customer-centric approach, define some actions really needed for online merchants. And I would like to ask you, Mayra, what do you think and which was the Riskified reaction of that?
Yeah, true, Alessio. And merchants reacted quickly. New challenges have been emphasized in this period of adaptation. Erotic shopping behaviors called corona buying patterns by some resembled behavior which is usually regarded as fraud-related. So vetting good orders becomes more challenging. As we heard from Maria Giovanna earlier, there's been a surge in new customers using new payment methods. This means not only that the retailer had no order history and no digital footprint, but also they needed to handle new buying patterns because perhaps some of these buyers are not as tech savvy. Perhaps they're more prone to be disturbed by friction. So again, unknown risk. And we saw fraud attempts peak in late March and April, rising 40 to 60% from January and February. So the good practice here for retailers is to set targets for key fraud performance metrics on each channel. For example, aim for different decline and chargeback rates for online, for click and collect, and for in-store transactions. This way, you accept many good orders as possible, stopping fraud as much as possible, but also preventing the data loss. I want to share with you a bit of what we've done while we're seeing the crisis happen. So on the one hand, we talked about declining, and declining even a single order can lead to a bigger loss when we know that 81% of customers reported that they're very likely to switch to another company if they had a bad customer experience. So to mitigate lifetime customer loss, Riskified was able to quickly offer retailers that weren't previously integrated into our system an emergency fraud protection with our chargeback liability shift without investing heavily in technology resources, which were scarce during the height of the crisis. On the other hand, we also know that chargeback costs, especially around friendly fraud, have increased a lot during COVID. So we wanted to find some ways to save time and money and operational costs. So as one example, we worked with our OTA and used our technology to automatically identify liar buyers. How? Because we detect thousands of orders for example, that she filed with the same address and IP across multiple merchants in our network. And we've had all this information in real time. So it took us less than a minute to determine whether to dispute this chargeback and seconds to compile the evidence on the dispute. And in about a week, we got the answer in the chargeback dispute and we won it. So Alessio, can you share some of what you've experienced during this period?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it would be a pleasure. And I think that the most interesting case was the pay by link solution. It's a simple solution and it exists since a while. But based on social distance and with the buyers locked at home, having a solution plug and play to able to close an online payment through a link or showing QR code in the store without any physical interaction was a huge help for our clients. And directly from the dashboard, the sales assistant can, for example, from any device, insert the email, the amount, and send the link to the buyer to close the payment and get the sale done. And with Miroglio, we have a strong and long partnership to support all the payment strategies. In the last months, we did something amazing together, activating the Pay by Link solution into 500 stores in a few days in order to achieve an integration between online and in-store experience. This really helped Miroglio to support his new service called Shopping at Home, where any buyer can shop through a video call and get the goods directly at home. And what we learn from this period is that be ready is essential. So it's important, push digital now to be ready tomorrow. And I want to go deep in the next slide to see what does it mean, push the digital? Because as a PSP and as a partner to grow, in our opinion, it means simplify the checkout, especially the last phase, the payment phase. So removing frictions and any checkout steps is a way to get a better conversion rate. And this is crucial to close more sales and don't lose customers, of course. And of course, from any touch point, it's not only online, the customer is omni experience. And now the buyer is expecting to have the same user experience through all the channels, all the payment methods that they can use online, they are expecting to use offline. There's no difference between if a transaction is card not present or card present. The aim is process the payment quickly and easily. Importance of readiness. Everyone realized that the block can happen again. So now it's time to implement the most effective tools to be ready. And at the end, tokenization, the possibility to save the card number with an alliance is something important to improve the payment security, to get a better conversion rate, but in this specific scenario, to get a zero-click payment as an experience and the possibility to enable new recurring models. So every buyer is important, and I let Miriam now explain what this means for Riskified.
Yes, Alessio, true. But matching customers' ever-evolving expectations means retailers need to invest and implement the appropriate tech with a comprehensive approach. So while e-commerce has become the main and maybe down the road the only growth lever, recession will actually weaken customers' buying power. So now more than ever, merchants need to leverage the right tools to make every order get through. And technology needs to mitigate such risk as sophisticated fraud schemes. We've seen, for example, phishing attacks on the rise. So the use of new tools to monitor accounts at login, for example, to see if there's an account takeover is essential. Also, SCA-related fraud and card abandonment, loss of revenue. So use exemptions as much as possible to make sure the transaction goes through. And finally, cross-border, unfamiliar purchases, fraud patterns leading to chargebacks and false declines. We really need to use an AI-powered solution to help with accuracy in real time. And I want to leave you with one key takeaway. Use technology partners and use them right. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mirav and Alessio. Really appreciate that. So we're going to move on. Before we go on to our panel, we want to have some audience participation. So we're going to ask you a question now, and we're going to put a poll up on the screen. Who led the digital transformation of your company? Was it your CEO, CTO, CMO, or was it another C-level, COVID-19? Please vote now, and you have 5 seconds to vote. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much for contributing. We'll get the results up shortly. Interesting. So we have the split is 53% of our audience. The CEO decided to take this digital transformation of your company. 16%, it was the CTO. The CMO didn't get a look in, unfortunately. 32% were driven by COVID-19. So it looks like the CEO is driving the right decisions. That's brilliant. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to open the panel up for some questions. Panel, may I ask you to have your video and your microphones on, please? And I'm going to put some questions to you. Okay.
Hello.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. So the first question for our panel today is the e-commerce and e-payment landscapes have been undergoing deep changes these last years. How advanced were you in your digital transformation? How did it impact the way you handled COVID-related challenges? I'd like to ask Antonio from MasterCard to respond first to that one, please, Antonio.
Yes, thanks. First of all, thanks to this invite. Yes, MasterCard basically, as you know, is a technology company which is focused on payment business. And we have always driven the technology innovation in this business with the two main objectives. One is the digital inclusion, which for us means that all our stakeholders, mainly merchants and consumer, must be able to use digital payments. And the second one is to create a new user experience, digital user experience, which must be safe, secure, and especially convenient. With this in mind, we have decided to invest on three main directions, and this happened several years ago. The three directions were, first of all, e-commerce, and this means for us that all cards must be e-commerce enabled. The second one is the adoption of NFC technology, which is the basic pillar to enable mobile payment and contactless payment in store. Just to give you another data point, you need to consider that almost 60% of our portfolio is NFC enabled here in Italy. And last point is to create the famous one-click checkout, but in a safe and secure which means for us to invest in new technology like tokenization, but also biometrics for whatever means authentication, let's say. So all this stuff were already in place when the crisis started. And let me say, we have data that are demonstrating that our stakeholder, again, merchants and cardholder, have really appreciated this technology and used it during the crisis period. Just to give you other data points. So imagine to consider May 20 against May 19. We have seen that more than 80% of card payments in store have been done with the contactless transaction. And we have seen also that an increase of 2 million unique cardholders that for the first time started to make e-commerce transaction.
That's fantastic, Antonio. I mean, it sounds like MasterCard were very well prepared. Ironically, none of us were really, but that was brilliant. And seeing 80% of your cardholders prepared with contactless has been fantastic. I would like to ask the very same question to Ivan from Tribu, please.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for inviting me and Tribu this panel. Tribu, as a digital leader in the Italian market, is used to work on digital transformation for our partners, but also for ourselves. So all our instruments were still cloud-based or queryable by everywhere, and they helped us to implement remote working since several years. This was a very important point to guarantee our business continuity when the crisis due to COVID-19 came. And to be more concrete, for example, in the beginning of 2020, we put an additional very important brick in our company, moving on a cloud-based ERP solution. And as you can imagine, this was a very difficult step, especially for our e-commerce activities, given that all the payment transactions we perform are connected to our ERP. And so you can understand how risky was this kind of change. But now we are quicker to be connected to new payment methods. We can handle easily new services. And for example, we can perform quicker refunds in case of returns by automating processes as much as possible. So during COVID-19, this change that we did summer before the crisis came helped us to be more ready to this period. But beside to these technical aspects, during the last years, we worked a lot to face peaks in our supply chain, including customer service and logistic activities, because COVID-19 arrived on our heads like a very unpredictable peak from a supply chain point of view. And thanks to our partner, to the differentiation with supplier that we put in field, and of course, of the digital instruments that we have that allow us to be updated, even if we are not in the same place, we started to end the pandemic period as a peak period. Of course, we had a very tricky initial period because normally spring, when the pandemic came here in Europe, is not a peak period. So we had to set the new numbers, new order profile by the customer, because we experienced, for example, less value, more pieces, so consequently more replenishment in logistics due to the need of more inventory, and new rules due to social distancing in our warehouses. But in the end, we can say that all the training made during this peak period came the past years helped us to organize properly all the activities related to our web stores in this period.
Very good. It seems like having your experience of really pushed hard has worked for COVID, where you were inundated with different activity. I think that sounds being prepared in a different kind of way. So brilliant. Thank you, Yvonne. Our second question today for the panel is, Italy was the first European country to be hit hard by the pandemic. Could you please tell us about the decisive moment you decided to pivot your activities in order to soften the blow, and how did you proceed? I would like back to you, Yvonne from Tribu, if you could give us your thoughts on that, please.
Yes. Well, just words about the context of Tribu. Our offices are in Milan. Our main warehouses are based in Lombardia region, and the most important one is in Bergamo area. So we saw the pandemic in a very important way. And we had a very important customer with the goods store inside the initial red zone. So we experienced all the steps inside the pandemic. And another important point is that a very big slice of our final customers, around 50%, is all around the world. So it means that initially, half of our final customers didn't know anything on what was happening. So maybe we had to close the warehouse for some days, but customers, they didn't talk about COVID-19. And this was a very, very strange situation. But when the lockdown arrived in Italy, the position of the Italian government about what to sell, who can sell, who can pack or deliver non-primary goods in e-commerce was not clear in the beginning. And this was a very hard point for us because as you said in the beginning, in Tribu, we manage different kind of goods, including food. So we work in a very uncertain environment. And this uncertainty on how to proceed and where to be focused was addressed with working with our legal department, our supplier, listening to the organization like Netcom, for example, and moving in a very concrete way inside technical aspects like a take coding, for example, to recognize the kind of company that can work or not. So if you want to focus the decisive moment, I think it was that for us, when we had the green light to proceed with the activities of all the web stores. This means a clear scenario on what it will happen from that day on. So all the stores open and the website stores substituting physical stores in most of the cases. And while we were solving this issue, what we did, soften the blow, was to communicate internally with our partner, but especially with final customers. As I told you in the beginning of this answer, with customers coming from different countries, the best way here is to communicate and to have a proactive communication from the website to the transaction emails when you are concluding a purchase or informing about a delay on transportation.
Perfect. I think for me, the biggest takeaway there is a continuation of communicating with everybody in your ecosystem, be it suppliers, internal teams, and more importantly, your customers. The same question, if I may, to Alberto from Infobip.
Thank you very much. Well, I would say that currently the company I belong to is natively digital. So in a sense, it has been rather easier than other industry probably to adapt or even better react to the situation. Now, any company, brand, or organization is made out of people. So for sure, I can't ignore that all of us in different moments in time has been shocked by what happened. But this is rather common. Now, coming to the subject, what have we done? We simply try to apply to the commercial proposition, the standard commercial proposition, our philosophy. Infobip has its own philosophy, and the company, even if it's a multinational company, is owned by a family. In other words, for us, it's not just a matter of managing businesses, opportunities, or make revenue, you know, but it's also and somehow building up a sense of community. And so concretely, we have addressed our solutions portfolio and people. So basically, I would say our entire value to the health environments around the world. We are rather expert in omnichannel sector. So what happened has been that tons of national governments has selected the platform as a solution in order to fight COVID-19. Believe me, for a man like me used to every day stay over the phone or in front of his laptop, joining calls and, you know, try selling and propose deals. You exactly know what I mean. Seeing that your product is able somehow to reduce risks, protect people, or do something different has been a really touching experience.
Well, that's incredible. Thank you very much for that. Moving on to our third question now. It's quite a long one, so brace yourself, guys. How effective were your efforts at adapting? Can you share some examples of agile emergency mechanisms you put in place to keep afloat? And finally, what would be your advice regarding specific markets such as the US, Latin America, where the pandemic is still gripping hard. I'd like to direct that to Antonio from MasterCard, please.
Yes. So basically, MasterCard has been watching the situation evolution with great attention, and this is because MasterCard tried to react in a global and coordinated way. Obviously, our two objectives were two. The first one were the situation of MasterCard employees. Basically, MasterCard have done everything in order to make the life of its own employees safe and secure. The second big point is to be sure that our stakeholder, our business partner, business continuity will remain as it is previous of this COVID crisis. So referring to these 2 points, just to give you some example of what have been done by MasterCard, I give you this data point. The first one is that MasterCard decided to invest $125 million in the Bill and Melinda Gates Fund. And this is an investment whose objective is try to find to put in place action to solve as soon as possible the COVID crisis. So it's a more health care, let's say, investment. The other one, which is bigger, I must say, is an investment of $250 million that MasterCard decided to do in MasterCard solution and products for the SME of US, but also other countries. This is just to give you an example of what this means in Europe. Basically, the MasterCard in Europe decide to offer free of charge for all the 2020 some products and services which are directly related to fraud prevention, and this is mainly for card payments fraud prevention, but also to help business in protecting against cyber attack and data breach. And these refer mainly to an investment that MasterCard has done last year, which is called RiskRecon, a new acquisition which can be leveraged by all companies, not only those that are included in card payment value chain, in order to try to solve and protect against this kind of problem. Obviously, as I said, it's not only for companies that refer to the card payment business, but to everyone. And as I said, this is a free of charge offer, which is for all the 2020 year.
Antonio, I think that's brilliant. 125 million US into Bill and Melinda Gates Fund to find a cure for COVID. That's a phenomenal humanitarian effort. 250 million into cyber security and fraud prevention. I think all retailers on this call should be phoning you at the end of this session to get in on that, especially when we read about the Twitter hack that happened this morning or through the night. I think we all need to be very diligent and aware of these activities. Same long question. Gianluca, thank you for your patience. I'd like to hand this over to you from Maud, please.
Thank you to you. And for us, it was very similar because when the COVID-19 arrived in Italy, nobody was ready for something that's so incredible, no? And so our company has two types of business. Then the one is the retail, so physical business, and the other one is digital. of course, digital is the most part, represents the most part of our business now. And so when this incredible story started in Italy, we imagine a very bad, very sad period, but we still keep to be positive, and we have immediately give more focus to the digital asset, and so we have continued to invest in our digital department. And instead, we were already working on to develop the new website, and in that period, immediately we ran to put online the new website. It was a very particular decision, because of course it was a very difficult moment. The agency, the people, was very difficult to meet, to speak, no? But we have believed in this, and now I can say that it was a very good choice, because we launched our new platform, and so we have managed this period with a different enthusiasm and a new challenge. So we have lived this moment with this type of approach. Of course, we have closed our offices, and everybody started to work from home. So we discovered the smart working, and we have also discovered that as a company is not so bad, because we was 12 hours every day in contact, everybody, using the modern application. And so we have continued to reply to the customer as regularly we do every day. Then also another interesting aspect is that when this was something just in Italy, and our business is for the 70% out of Italy. So we have a lot of customers everywhere in the world, but in the US especially, what we have discovered is a very big humanity from people. So people that buy in digital always consider the human aspect. So in our business, for example, this of course is a luxury and a very expensive purchase. No, it's not just a simple things. What we have discovered is this, that many people of the US, of Asia, of Australia, told us, don't worry if you have a delay in the production, because we understand in Italy, you are living in a very difficult period. Because what go out of Italy was a message that the company was closed, the factory was closed. So we have worked also on this aspect to reassure our customer that also if it was a difficult moment, we are still working to create something and to guarantee the same level of service and to be positive. So this was a good thing in this sad period, discovery how people immediately feel close, no, and understand what is happening. Now that in Italy the things are going better, we are doing the same with our US customer, because we have a lot of US customers. Every day we speak with them, and of course we understand exactly what is the feeling in this moment. So this is the way that we have used it to approach this moment. And I have to say that also it was not easy. Our business keep the same level of turnover, so we have just some flexion, but not so much. And of course, we have also launched the pay-per-click with Axerve, because we have used a lot this system of payment in that moment. And this was very helpful for our experience, because we have managed very easily all this transaction. So this is our experience about how we have approached this moment.
Gianluca, thank you very much on that. Two words that came out of there: compassion and community. I think that's an interesting thing that we all need to keep with us. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we want to interact with our audience. We have another quick question that we would like to get your opinion on. We're going to put a poll to you. The question is, with the onset of the new business reality, where will your organization innovate first? Will it be on the entire conversion funnel, on optimizing the checkout journey, on broadening the range of sales channels, on re-evaluating our target markets and or diversifying your product offering, on inventory and logistics in general? You've got 5 seconds to answer that. Thank you very much. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much. And our results show that's a nice spread, actually. 20% of our audience today have said it's on the entire conversion funnel. Another 20% said on broadening the range of sales channels. Another 20% said on inventory and logistics in general, but 40% of you on re-evaluating our target markets and diversifying your offering. And we're taking into account things like compassion and community that can contribute into your target market, no doubt, reassessment. Thank you for contributing. Our last question is to all of our panelists, but I will ask you individually for your points. How are you planning to maintain the post-crisis momentum and design your long-term growth strategy? Where are you today in your digital transformation and what you have learned? Antonio from MasterCard, can I ask you first? Please put your microphone on. Thank you.
Yeah. Basically, what we have seen, as I said, there is this period, a real great digital shift happened. So what we have seen is that the consumer and merchants started to use this new technology and digital payment. You must consider that Italy is a cash-driven market. During this period, things changed a lot. Just to give you some example, in retails, in shop, what we have seen is that payment with cards rised a lot. Till 80% of transaction have been made with cards, which is big. And also the number of e-commerce transactions, we have seen increase a lot, plus 20 million transactions, May 20 against May 19. So big numbers, a big shift. And basically what our research are saying is that those stakeholders are happy of this technology. So we are positive. We think that this trend will continue in the future. Where is the new challenge? The new challenge is coming with the regulation. As you know, starting from January next year, 2021, basically we have the start of the PSD2 and the RTS requirements, which is a big step in terms of securing the commerce ecosystem. So big goal to be achieved, but you have to imagine the big investment and efforts that all the ecosystem need to put in place. My perception is that Italy is well positioned, meaning that basically in this new effort is one of the European countries that is better positioned. Just to give you an additional point, we started 2 years ago to drive all the country we call SCA work stream, meaning that we try to define the path, the investment that are needed, and the implementation that all the player, issuer, acquirers, technology partner need to implement. Well, we are very well.
Sorry, Antonio, I'm going to have to cut you out there. Sorry, we're running really short of time, and I need to get the other guys in. Thank you for your contribution there. Apologies for running over. Gianluca, if I could ask for a couple of sentences on that point, please. It's effectively our new normal. Thank you very much.
Yes. What we have learned from this is that we really needed to be more fast, in everything, in all the operation. Because also if we work in e-commerce, who work in e-commerce now, that everything is very fast, and you have to do everything quickly. But what we learn from this event is that we still need to be more quick, more fast, to do everything more quickly, but always to keep a very high level of efficiency. So this is the new challenge that we have to take from this lesson. And we think that this is the main focus that we have always to have in mind, because will be the first point of all the operations. So in the warehouse, the logistic, but also in digital changing, and everything's work around our business needed to be very fast and very efficient. This is my sentence on this.
Fantastic. Ivan, may I ask you the same question?
Yes, well, for us, the challenge is that we don't really know how many customers are willing to continue to shop online while offline are available, offline ones are available, and comfortable to be visited. Especially here in Italy, we're experiencing a growth because of new customers, but we don't really know how trustful these 33% of new customers, as Maria Giovanna showed us, will be. So, of course, we get data regarding new customers, and we are trying to keep alive the communication with promotion and so on, but we don't know what it will happen. And in front of us, we have a period of uncertainty because we don't know anything also about the pandemic evolution and how the user will change due to that. And for this reason now, I think it's better to organize an agile supply chain, and new expected peaks of value may come in the next month. And so we organize our activity to guarantee everything as we have so far. So everything remotely if necessary, and guaranteeing also new customer acquisition and go lives. I think that we can resume, I try to resume our lesson learned with the 5 short points. One is that physical and digital integration cannot be postponed because digital is just a channel for our brands. 2, the relation between brand and customer don't have to strictly related to the channel that they use. And 3, digital transformation is something we can stop, and it's changing our life and the way how we work and we live and we purchase. A new normal will introduce the new services and new products to avoid the useless growth, especially if the pandemic won't disappear in the next month. Last point, numbers are saying that e-commerce increases related to primary goods, food, healthcare, and furniture. So we need to be very careful on these markets and maybe make some changement in our strategies to capture this kind of markets.
Thank you very much. Alberto, may I please ask you the same question?
Sure, can you hear me? Right. Well, I do believe that we have an option that is built up new scenarios, for sure. Thus, maybe this is a great opportunity to build some better one. And from business perspective, we have discovered of being probably stronger than what we believe. Now, an accelerator for reaching more easily complex challenges is, as Gianluca mentioned before, the people. People now is much more familiar with digital environment. So if I can adjust my personal point of view, my perspective, I would love that common sense would be the next driver in those new scenarios.
Perfect, simple. I'd like to thank the panel for their contributions today. It's been brilliant. We would like to, before we go into questions and answers, and I've got a few questions asked, we need to go to a wrap up from Bain. Maria Giovanna, can I hand it over to you to finish up for us?
Yes, thank you, Alpish. So I do agree with what has been said by all of you, especially by Ivan, Alberto, and Gianluca, about how the businesses and the merchants need to transform their business in light of the new normal. And we as Bain, we do think that the COVID-19 has radically transformed the digital world, and it has basically fast forwarded the adoption of digital payments we estimate an increase in adoption by 5 to 10 percentage points in all digital payments and 2 to 4 in e-commerce. And given this transformation, especially from a physical and typical retailer or merchant perspective, we think it's really important to first of all reimagine your value proposition, as we were saying. So rethink how to provide a distinctive omnichannel solution to your client, understanding according also to different scenarios what will be your customer needs in this new normal and depending on how the pandemic is going. The other really important thing will be to review as a retailer your asset mix, being logistics, and we were saying stores, physical versus digital operation, etc. And in general, I really like you mentioned at some point the agile operations. So for me, that would be having less complexity, rethink also your internal process and being able to leverage all the ecosystem and the partnership to achieve that.
Fantastic. I hope you can all agree that we've had some great insights there provided by our wonderful panelists. Guys, thank you so much for contributing. Before we go on to questions and answers, I'd just like to thank the audience for staying with us. By all means, stay with us. We've actually had a few questions come in, so thank you for those that have submitted those. Of course, you're welcome to stay and listen to us address those. However, we will be sharing this recording with you all by email. And if you did want to have direct a question to any of our speakers, please use the email that we used, which is event.axerve@riskified.com. And if you want to reach out to the panelists, I'm sure they'll respond. Antonio's inbox may get a bit busy with accessing that $250 million US. If you are leaving us now, on behalf of Riskified and Axerve and all of our panelists, we would like to thank you all for attending. If you're staying, well, we're going to go into some questions now. We've got one question here. During the period of lockdown, it has been reported that online shoppers in Europe have moved away from own label brands. Can the panel comment on this and why this may have happened? Ivan, could I ask you that question?
I think that maybe because of the lack of the relationship of the brand in an offline channel. But we have, for example, one important brand working on kids' clothes. And they have several hundreds of offline shops in Italy. And you can imagine that all the people that were going on commercial center, on the city center, and they were used to buy goods in these shops, they didn't have the opportunity to go there. So the brand has only the online channel to keep alive the communication and the relationship with their customers. We know that because we experience an increasing also of 10 times if you compare period by period on the previous year. So I think that maybe customers went to brands because they needed to have a relationship with them.
Excellent. Maria Giovanna, do you mind if I ask you the same questions? You may have some insights from Bain there.
Yeah, so I do agree with Ivan. I think that's both a reason of channel viability, as Ivan was suggesting, and moreover, I do also think there's a theme of trust underlying that. So there will be, especially I think, and we saw some data on that about customers trying, online and e-commerce for the first time. We know, for example, especially in Italy, there's a lot of customers who are not very used to digital. They're still very, very, afraid in a way of using e-com. So the identification of a brand and the trust theme could be also like a driver for that, on top of the channel viability that Ivan was commenting on.
Excellent. That question was from David. Thank you very much, David, for that question. We have one more here. We have a few more. We are a long-time brick and mortar business, and our management culture is very traditional. What is the first step a company like mine needs to adopt, to adopt a more agile and digital culture? Gianluca, could I ask you that question?
But yes, thanks. And what I can say is that when you are a brick and mortar to go digital is a really transformation, because you really need to change your mind, your point of view. So your focus need to be totally changed, and you have to imagine to work in a totally different way. So of course, the email and the website became your first partner, but also you have always to imagine every day a different strategy. And so everything you are in your mind, you have to consider that is for a short period. So it's a totally different from a brick and mortar approach, where you build the showroom, you try to think everything for a medium or long period. Online, everything is very, very fast, and you have to be fast too. So you have to imagine every day a different way to approach your business, your team, your process, to change what was true yesterday is not true today. So this is a very hectic time, of course, but is an approach that you have to have in your mind. So this is what you need to change from brick and mortar to digital. But the main challenge is that you have to become digital, but you have to keep your brick and mortar spirits, no? If you are able to put these two anima together, this is something that has a double value. So what I think that is very important is that if you come from a brick and mortar experience, you have something that has a very huge value, and you have just to be able to put this in digital. The transformation is this one, because if you're born in digital, you never will know what is a newspaper, because what is the paper, no? Because your attitude is to read the news on the computer, on iPhone. But if you came from the brick and mortar, you know paper and you know digital. If you put them together, you make a very special goal that has a more interesting content. And as everybody know, online content is the first thing that at the Google love and the people too. So this is the very big challenge that you can take from brick and mortar to go digital. This is the transformation that I imagine as the most nice things that you can do in digital.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank
I got
you.
a little bit old there because I still read a newspaper, but never mind. I've got an interesting one here. How is it possible to create an omni-channel payment experience with the existing technology? The question doesn't say what technology they have, but I got a feeling that my learned colleague from Axerve can help us here. Alessio, what do you think?
Sure. We were saying before that actually we just follow the omni-channel strategy, and when I say we, I say we Axerve like PSP from our customers. So actually provide a flexible solution, in my opinion, is a must. But let me say that technology is ready. So in the same way the customer, our clients are using APIs to accept payments online, it's possible to use the same API structure to create an order from any touch point. So for example, when you have a store, you can create, and your touch point could be a tablet in the store, or could be maybe a totem or something like directly the cash register. and then from there push the order directly on an Android-based POS. And when you are on the POS, so physically on the POS, it's very interesting because from there you can, for example, tokenize directly a card, or let your buyer choose the right payment method that you want to use, he or she wants to use. So let me say that not only online, but especially in the omni-channel payment is fundamental to thrive, at least, to achieve the so-called zero-click or tap in the store payment.
Very good, very good. I think I've got one for Merav here. I think the first line talks about 3D Secure, so let's give it a go. If 3D Secure prevents fraud and PSD2 will shift the chargeback liability from the merchant, what are the advantages of using a third-party fraud solution anyway?
Good question. So other than the fact that 3DS causes friction and cart abandonment in some places, I'm sorry, Antonio, it's not perfect. It's not, you know, fraud-proof. It's sometimes ineffective against sophisticated fraud schemes like we talked before. And fraudsters can shift because, you know, fraudsters are always trying to be one step ahead. They can shift to other channels or market that are out of scope of PSD2. So it's not enough. And even, you know, if merchants are not liable anymore for the chargeback, someone is. And also the fraud rate is important. So you can't have high fraud rates. It doesn't matter if you're liable or not. You still need to keep your fraud rates low, and you can't be in the excessive chargeback program, suffer penalties. So you need AI-powered solutions to help you with that, sort out the safe orders, and you know, you can even put the solution before it reaches any of the other stakeholders, and our solution, for example, can catch the fraud before it hits anyone else. It allows to sift out the fraudulent transactions that won't show up at the end on your fraud rate. And ultimately, more transactions will be captured, and there will be more benefits for the shoppers if we can move smoothly, and of course to the merchants and to the banks, because you don't want to allow fraud in. You want to stop it at the first point. So I think that's key.
So we need third-party solutions. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think still we need the smart solutions there.
Do you know anyone?
I'll ask around. Panel, do you know anyone?
Very good. We've got one more question, and it's good that it's going to this guy, I think, because he's the one with the biggest wallet right now. Antonio from MasterCard, this is perfect for you. From a scheme perspective, what are the challenges to guaranteeing a frictionless omni-channel payment experience?
But basically, as we said, the real everything needed to play its own role. No, as a merchant, I think the real important things is to try to take all the customer experience within its own hand, meaning that if you have the opportunity to leverage all the exemptions that are that PSD2 allow, you need to leverage these, and so try to go frictionless with those exemptions directly in the authorization flow. So my suggestion to all the merchant is try to leverage as maximum as possible all the exemptions that the new regulation allow, and try to take the user experience of a cardholder, drive the user experience of your cardholder by yourself. Obviously, you cannot do this all the times. In some cases, you need to trigger the 3DS flow. In these cases, what we can say is that issuers are doing their best, also with the new protocol and whatever, in order to reduce as much as possible the friction that can happen in this, with this row. And also for them is really important. They are doing their best in order to allow also in this case all the exceptions.
No, I think that's brilliant. I think Retailers need to work with their technology partners. I think that was said earlier. Access schemes, get into what's available, support from everyone. We've got some retailers here. There's a lot of advice. I think that concludes our questions today. So we've taken a lot of your time this afternoon, and we're really grateful for you to carving that out for us. We are looking forward to holding more of these sessions, and we will definitely be contacting you in the future for just that. But it just leaves me to say thank you to our panelists one more time. Thank you all for taking some time to support us. Thank you, audience around the world, for staying up or waking up early to participate with us today. And I would normally say this, but I'll say it anyway. All the best and have a safe journey home, even though you may only be upstairs. So thank you all, and wish you a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao.